The Bay Area has been increasingly more expensive to live in, which is causing a crisis for the people with low incomes to fund their homes. This is the Bay Area housing crisis.
The CBS San Francisco article, Effects of Housing Crisis, Homeless Permeate State of Living in the Bay Area, had reported how the family of Paul Bowen, specifically his daughter and her husband, had to move out of the city. They reported how Paul said that they were not in the tech industry and they could not afford the kind of housing prices in the Bay Area that most people pay. Many people like him believe that the tech industry is responsible for the rising housing prices too, and their belief is partially correct. As reported by CBS, the success in the Bay Area is largely driven by tech. The region is home to nearly 4.1 million jobs, while the state is on pace to build fewer than 100,000 homes in 2019. State research indicates California needs to build 180,000 homes a year to pull itself out of this mess.
But why is there such a low focus on supplying more people more homes? Well, there are many reasons. In the same CBS report, we saw that a Turner Center study had stated how the fees for constructing homes were very high, which deterred developers from building affordable homes for the people. Developers can expect to pay $3.5 million in fees to build a multi-family project in Oakland, $7.5 million in fees for the same project in Fremont, and $1.7 million for the same project in Sacramento. These fees are high because the city is trying to make up for the lost money from Prop 13, a California law, that kept property tax low in price.
Another reason is reported in Mercury News. Who caused the Bay Area's housing shortage? There are city officials who are supposed to approve the development projects but are very reluctant to, because it's a very large investment to overlook. A quote from the director of UC Berkeley's law school program, Ethan Elkine, says, "They've been greenlighting office projects like crazy, but they don't care about where those workers are supposed to live." His quote shows how city officials only invest in projects guaranteed to pay them back.
Because so many jobs have been provided by the tech industry and the imbalance in residential units, this has made housing more competitive. This causes an increase in the price a person is willing to pay for a home, and that number goes way up, which means that the residents that were already living here will see their rent rise with the demand. The rising costs will drive more and more people out of their homes as they can't catch up with their payments.
Because of the increasing expenses of living in the Bay Area, across the Bay, the population of homeless people has been increasing. Statistics reported by CBS show that in Alameda County, the homeless population was 8,022 in 2019, a 42.5% increase since 2017. And in Santa Clara County, the homeless population is 9,706, a 31% increase since 2017.
According to the New York Times article, What is Redlining? Redlining is a program in which the government offers help pay out the mortgage of some people living in certain areas that have a low risk in lowering their property value. The government only wants to pay for people who deserve the loan, people who will keep the price of the property high instead of ruining the home. Neighborhoods around the country were graded from A through D. The federal government deemed D areas as the places where property values were most likely to go down. This was originally for homeowners who needed an insured mortgage during the Great Depression, where it was not guaranteed for people to pay off their homes.
But really, redlining is historically one of the main race-based exclusionary tactics in real estate. According to the National Public Radio NPR article, A Forgotten History of How the U.S. Government Segregated America, the federal government maps create the term redlining to segregate and evaluate areas on the map. Places where African Americans lived were categorized as a D region, meaning anywhere where African Americans lived. Anywhere where African Americans lived nearby were colored red to indicate to appraisers that these neighborhoods were too risky to insure mortgages.
This is also corroborated with a previously mentioned New York Times article, where they reported on the government theory claiming if there was the presence of any population of black residents, there was a sign of impending property value decline. Other segregation tactics were used by the Federal Housing Administration to physically separate the white and black population because they believed incompatible racial groups should not be permitted to live in the same communities.
This government separation and lack of subsidizing help is the reason why African American wealth back in 2017 was 5% of white wealth, as reported from NPR. Affordable housing that African Americans had the ability to purchase in the 1940s were prohibited to them. But now that they're 8 times or higher than the median income, the government opens the places for African Americans to buy. Quoted from the NPR article, those homes are no longer affordable to the families that could have afforded them, when whites were buying into those suburbs and gaining the equity and wealth that followed from that. The wealth the white people had was able to care for many aspects of their life, but these advantages weren't accrued to the African American people.
Imperialism was after the time of the European Industrial Revolution, where European countries expanded and colonized weaker countries in Africa in order to take the resources to mainly supply European production of goods.
In Africa, European nations had taken many resources, utilized the African people for cheap labor, competed with rival countries, and showed their belief that the white race is superior.
The main cause of imperialism was the Industrial Revolution. Because the Europeans created the steam engine, machines and factories were able to produce goods at a faster rate than before. This revolution had further advanced many technologies and infrastructures in Europe, which boosted their economy. But this also had meant that they needed to get more resources and raw materials to supply those factories.
The Europeans turned to countries that won't put up much of a resistance, such as African and South Asian countries, to colonize. They believed this because of their superior weaponry against African countries, which was made possible by the Industrial Revolution.
During imperialism, Europeans treated the Africans they colonized like slaves. Although they built much infrastructure in Africa, none of it was in the good of the African people. According to Patrice Lumumba, the Prime Minister of Congo, we have seen that in towns there were magnificent houses for the whites and crumbling shanties for the blacks. That a black was not admitted to the motion picture houses, in the restaurants, in the stores of the Europeans. That a black traveled in the holds at the feet of the whites in the luxury cabins.
This shows how in Africa, the people were divided between the rich Europeans and the poor Africans, like how the efforts of redlining were separating the black and white people of America and making a wealth inequality between the two races.
The Causa Justa, or Just Cause, is an organization that tries to help fight for local communities all around the Bay Area. They fight to help protect tenant rights and fight for a better future for many oppressed groups. They have done rights-based services, policy campaigns, civic engagement, and some direct action to help these people with housing and more. They supply people around the Bay Area with useful information and resources to help out many communities that are under threat to whatever that's affecting the community.
One of the campaigns they have done is a partnership with another organization to help fight for low-income tenants that need financial assistance. The program they have made can cover past rent due, prospective rent up to 3 months, and utility expenses. They also provide an information sheet on their website with services and programs open for the public to apply. They discuss what the program does, the eligibility of the program, what is considered low income based on the number of people living under the household to help consider eligibility, what the program prioritizes, and how to apply.
Another campaign they've done is a call to action and information campaign that uses civic engagement against legislators. They're informing people about federal and statewide COVID-19 eviction protections and how they are ending soon, which puts millions at risk of being evicted and becoming homeless. They then try to rally up people to call legislators in order to extend protections that keep many people in their homes.
This has been our video presentation. I hope you enjoy it since we spent so much time editing and recording and researching everything. Good luck with your other presentations.